Alrighty. So, yesterday we started the story that was called Black Cowboy, Wild Horses. So we're going to go ahead and keep working on that. So I'm going to head over to Google Classroom and get that opened up. I'd like you guys all to do the same. If you already have it open, sit tight. Black Cowboy, Wild Horses. Okay. I'll give you guys about 1 minute to go ahead and get logged in, get the story opened up. Then we will talk about what we started yesterday, what we finished, what's graded.
I think I need to do this real quick.
Got a couple of, like a minute here if you need to finish up a box, maybe. Yeah.
I think I need to. I gotta find out about it. I just gotta open it.
So let's I don't want to re-listen to the whole story because that would take us a while. It's 12-13 minute story, so I don't want to re-listen to the whole thing, but we can recap what happened, right? Like how in a TV show before it goes on to the next episode, it does like a 30-second this is what happened, right? So let's start at the beginning of the story. Bob is who? Who is Bob? He's a man. He's a cowboy. One of the main characters. Good. What about Warrior? Who is Warrior? His horse. Good. And Warrior, I think, is a black stallion. I think that's what they said he is. Yeah, Warrior, his black stallion. Good. Okay. So they are where? Where are they at? They're in the Great Plains. Do you guys know where the Great Plains are? Okay, let's look at it. So when you look up the Great Plains and where it is, it's kind of in the middle of the United States.
Yeah.
So Texas is down here, right? Do you guys see this, right? And it kind of goes up in through the middle of the United States, up into Canada as well, kind of. But it's just this area in the middle of the United States that's just kind of grassy and hilly. It's a plain. Like, yeah, it's not super close to Arizona. It's kind of more the middle of the United States. It runs kind of right in the middle of it, a little bit into Canada too. And it kind of just looks like this. Like, plains are really, you can see really far. It's grass. A little bit into Mexico, but this is kind of what plains look like. There's a lot of buffalo on them. As we know, there are Mustangs, wild horses. So this is kind of what a plain looks like. This is kind of the setting of your story. Bob and Warrior are out there. Why are they out there? To catch some wild horses. Do they do it like to walk up to them and like, hey, let's go? Good. They had to kind of follow first for a little bit, get accepted into the group. And then Dallin just said they had to fight the leader of the herd, right? So Bob was on Warrior's back. They had like a horse fight. I don't know how horses fight. They did that. Yeah, with their front feet, I think. And yeah, they did their fight. And who won? Warrior and Bob won. So that means that Warrior and Bob become the leader of this herd. And where do they lead them after that?
The place. The corral.
Good. Bob and Warrior led them to the corral, and there were some other people there to meet them, and they closed the gates. And then at the very end, what did Bob and Warrior wish that they were doing? Yeah, they wish that they were out in the plains, just going wherever the horizon took them. Where the sky and the land meet is the horizon. So they just want to be out there doing their own thing. They don't want to be doing all this stuff, but you know, got to make a living somehow, right? And then we talked about this a little bit, but when did this take place?
Like after slavery.
A little bit after slavery, because it said that Bob was an African American man. I don't know if it actually said that, but we can assume that, right? Because
It says that like
He was a former slave, right?
Mhm.
That's what it said. So we can assume that he's African American. And it's called Black Cowboy. So I don't know if it's a true story. I don't think so. It might be based on true events. But yeah. But it is a little bit after slavery because he's a former slave. It's not far enough in time to where technology is really out and about. So probably in the late 1800s, early 1900s is about the time when this story took place. So,
Wait, then how did they get it to here? The technology.
because someone wrote the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, after that recap, let's go ahead and just review what we did yesterday. We started with concept vocabulary and looked at those couple of words. We had milled. What does milling about mean?
Walking around confused.
You're just kind of walking around a little bit confused. Good. Skittered. What does it mean to skitter?
So like move lightly.
To move quickly and lightly. Yeah. Kind of skitter away like I think of it like a mouse.
I'm a horse.
Okay. And then what does it mean to quiver? Quivering. To shiver. To shake. Good. All right. We did our first read chart, which apparently doesn't want to open right there. That's okay. You guys know how to do the first read chart. We've done it with every single story. We completed our comprehension check, which was 3 questions. The first 2 were, who is Warrior? And then what do Bob and Warrior want to do someday? And then our third one is a 2 to 3 sentence summary. So we completed that. Yes, Yoshi.
Do I have to do that? Yesterday you said I had to.
No, that's fine. And then research. We did, you chose one of the 3 things. So the dangers of Mustangs, wild horses.
I did it.
Mustangs' natural environment, so where they live, and or the life of an Old West cowboy. So you could have researched one of those things and wrote 2 to 3 sentences about it. So that is all we did yesterday. Today we're going to skip a few and go right down to analyze, craft, and structure. So let's go ahead and get that opened up. Okay. I just said we're going to do analyze, craft, and structure. I don't know. I'm going to decide as we go, depending on how much time we have left. So analyze, craft, and structure. Let's go ahead and get that open. If you want to just make sure people aren't falling asleep. Mainly Yoshi, but he seems awake this morning.
Yeah. I'm awake now.
So today, when we're doing analyze, craft, and structure, we're going to be talking about the plot of a story. I'm pretty sure you guys did this in 5th grade. What is a plot?
Like the main idea. Yeah.
You have the main idea. That's one of the parts of it.
The problem.
There's a problem, so you have conflicts. There's different parts of a plot, right? But the plot is like what happens in your story. It starts at here, some things happen, problem, some more things, resolution. So we're going to talk about the plot of this story and how it unfolds and just kind of discuss plot again. Okay? Maybe. I mean, it did say that he was a former slave, but he does work for people. But even though he was a former slave, maybe he's getting paid now to work for someone instead of being forced to work. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and read this part about plots, and we'll go from there. So it says, story structure, plot. A plot is the sequence of related events in a story. All plots center on a conflict. What is a conflict? You could just keep reading the sentence. It tells you what a conflict is. What is a conflict? The struggle or the problem. Good. The conflict is the problem that a character faces. Problems can be as little as they need to be for the story or a big, huge problem. Like maybe, let's see. What's a story that you guys know really well usually? No. I was thinking like a common story, like
Harry Potter?
Yeah, most of you guys know Harry Potter.
I don't. Percy Jackson.
Not okay. Well, anyway, let's go with Little Red Riding Hood. Right? She goes down the road to get some baked goods for her grandma, and who does she run into? The wolf, right? The wolf is the problem, right? The wolf is the problem that the characters face. So any sort of problem, the Little Red Riding Hood faces a big problem. The wolf is trying to eat her. Good, good. And then there could be a little problem like, that's a big problem. I don't know. A little problem might be like, oh no, I missed the bus. Got to get to school somehow, right? So there could be big problems and there could be little problems, but most stories have some sort of conflict that needs to be resolved or faced, right? It says, in some stories, the conflict comes from an outside force, such as nature or another character. In other stories, the conflict comes from within the character, who may have a desire or a goal that is difficult to achieve. So you could have a problem that comes from outside, like something is happening to the character, or you could have a problem / conflict that the characters in their own mind can't figure it out, is trying to solve the problem themselves, right? Every plot follows a set of steps or stages in which the conflict is introduced, developed, and finally resolved. So there are 5 steps. I'm going to draw a picture because this is probably how you guys have seen it most often. Okay? So I'm going to draw the picture as we go. The exposition. Hang on. So first you have your exposition. Can we see this? Starts kind of at the bottom. Those of you here, starts kind of at the bottom. Have you guys seen this before? Okay. I think you guys have seen this before. It's called a plot diagram. The exposition starts over at the bottom. It's where everything is introduced. So they introduce the character, the setting, and the basic situations of the story. Huh? Kind of the beginning of the story, but we call it the exposition as well. And then you have your rising action, which kind of comes on the hill part of it. That is the conflict that's kind of starting to happen. It's the series of events that are leading towards your problem. Okay? Then you have your conflict, which is your problem. It's like the big part of the story, right at the very top, tip top. Big problem in your story. Yes, Charlie?
The conflict is a whole bunch of people are going to cover the rising.
Okay, we can talk about that later. Yeah. Okay. So your climax is when the problem happens. It's the biggest part of the story, the big turning point. Then you have your falling actions, which kind of come on that lower curve on the other side, and that's when the problem's kind of starting to be fixed. They're deciding how to fix the problem that they're having. It's coming down on that side, and then finally you have your resolution. The resolution is where your problem gets resolved, everything clears up, and you're done. The story is over. It ends the story, wraps it all up. So you have this kind of like a plot diagram. That's what we call this, where it starts at the exposition and goes up to the climax, the conflict, and then it falls down to the resolution where it ends. And then these upper hills are the things that happen in between to create those problems and stuff. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, the different parts of our story at these different points in our story. Is this making some sense so far? I think you guys did this in 5th grade. I know for a fact that this is a 5th grade standard. Well, depending on your teacher, you should have done this in 5th grade. I'm just saying. So, no, let's practice this. So it says, guys, pay attention. This is a graded part, so I'm not going to help you guys through it too much. I'm going to guide you guys a little bit, but I want you guys to write your answers to this. So this practice part says, work independently to answer the questions. Number 1, in this story, what does Bob Lemons want to achieve? So you need to make sure you answer part A and part B, okay? So let's start with number 1. I'm going to give you a few minutes. Well, write one thing he wants to achieve because part B says identify at least 2 problems that Bob solves. So choose one of the things that he wants to achieve. And try and write incomplete sentences, please. But number 1 is worth 2 points. 1 point for part A and 1 point for part B. So make sure you are typing them out for both. Okay, so part A and part B. Part A, what does Bob want to achieve in this story? And part B, what are 2 problems that Bob has to solve in order to achieve his goal? Okay. All right, we'll give you a minute on those ones. Okay, so make sure you're answering both questions. Think about what Bob wants to achieve. Why is he out there in the first place? What is his goal? And then number 2, what are 2 problems he has to solve in order to achieve that goal? Okay. Number 1, analyze, craft, and structure. Okay. Now be answering those questions, please.
Okay.
Nope, you need to answer the questions in a complete sentence. I'm going to give you about 1 more minute.
Okay. Can we work on this after?
If you need to, yes, you can continue to work on it after we're done.
Okay. I can never find mine.
Because it doesn't say Yoshi, it says your full name at the bottom.
Oh yeah, the name.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Hopefully you got number 1. So what was his goal? What was he doing out there in the wild? And what were 2 problems that he had to solve to fix those? To achieve his goal. Wow. Okay. Number 2 here says, what information about the setting, Bob Lemon, and Warrior appears in the first 2 paragraphs? So we have our first 2 paragraphs right here, number 1 and number 2. We're just going to highlight them because they're right there. So what information do we learn about them in that first part? What info do we learn? Okay, so answer that in a complete sentence, please. Or complete sentences, if you need sentences. Part B asks, to which stage of the story's plot do these paragraphs belong? So is that going to be the introduction of all of these characters in the setting? Is that in the exposition, the rising action, the climax, not the climax, the conflict? When I was young, I called it the climax. The falling actions, or the resolution. So there's 5 different stages of a plot. When they're introducing things, which part is it in? That's what part B is asking you. Okay? So which part of the plot do the paragraphs belong? Okay, so write those in a complete sentence as well. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes on this one. Yeah, which part is it in? Is it the exposition? Is it part of the rising action, the conflict, the falling actions, or the resolution? Okay, go back up and read what each of those mean. And I will give you a couple minutes. What information do we learn? And what part of the plot is it part of? It wants to know about the setting, Bob, and Warrior. All three things. Yoshi, focus. Start typing, please. Alex, start typing, please. Which part of the plot is it in? Go back and read the descriptions of them and see which part of the plot it's in. Okay, we'll do about 3 more minutes. Is that enough time? Okay. Alrighty. Let's look at our next one here. So we'll close that one. Let's look at number 3. Number 3. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this part that's highlighted. Okay. Number 3 says, what important information appears in paragraph 4? So if we go down to paragraph 4, and I'm going to highlight it just so that it's there for you guys. So part A, in a complete sentence, what is the important information in paragraph 4? What do we learn in paragraph 4? So that's part A. Part B asks you, why is that important? Why is this important information that we learned? So you're going to have to reread that paragraph. Don't just start guessing. Reread the paragraph and answer in a complete sentence, please. And then part C, what part of the plot diagram is that? We're almost done. We have this question and 2 more, so keep your energy focused for a little bit. Okay. So part A, what is the important information in paragraph 4? Part B, why is that information important? And part C, what stage of the plot is that in? So use a plot diagram here. What part of the plot is that in? The exposition, rising actions, conflict, falling actions, or the resolution? Go back up and use the information in the little bit of information that I gave you about what these parts are of your plot. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to work on this one. Okay, 4 minutes. Mrs. Alice is playing something in her room. She has a big speaker, so. Because I don't want to buy a big speaker, you guys can hear things just fine.
I thought they just attached it by themselves. I didn't think so. I have to buy them.
Yep. Couple more minutes on this one. Number 3, a couple more minutes. All right, ready for our next one? Okay, I'm still gonna move on. Sorry. So that was number 3. Number 4 says, at what point do you think that the story reaches its climax or the problem? Where does it reach like the part where you're like, oh my gosh, that was so intense. It was the best part of the story. That's what you're answering here in a complete sentence. What was the problem in the story? When did the story get to its greatest point of tension? Where there was the most like, oh wow, that was crazy. What part of the story was that? Write that in a complete sentence, please. Yeah, which part? It just kind of gives you the most like, oh, that was the most intense part of the story. That was like the top of your chart right here, right? What point gave you the most like, wow, that was cool. That was the best part of the story, type of thing. I mean, it should be the same for everybody. Like, what was the point in the story that was the most like the greatest point of tension? I guess the one that gives you the most emotion, anxiety out of it. I guess. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, but make sure you explain your choice too. Don't just write it down. Explain why you think that. Make sure you explain it. Morning. We're working on our story, Black Cowboy, Wild Horses. I don't think we're going to. That's not what was just asked. All right. Hopefully that was enough time for number 4. That was just a one sentence. This is what I think and why. And then our last one, we have a part A and B again. Number 5. At the end of the story, what unfulfilled longing does Bob express? So we talked about that. What do Bob and Ware want to do at the end of the story that they really aren't able to do? So a complete sentence on that one, please. And part B. Why do you think that the author ends with this issue rather than with Bob's successful achievement of his goal to get the horses, right? So write a complete sentence for that one too, and explain that. So maybe complete sentences on that one. Why do you think the author would end with that sad part about like, oh, Bob and Warrior want to go do this? Why would the author end with that instead of like, yeah, they achieved their goal? So give me your thoughts on that. I'll give you a couple minutes on that one there. About the one that I just explained. Okay. Just want to do that. That's because you're not typing. I don't know yet. Hang on. Nope, hang on. Stop jumping ahead. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, we are going to be taking the test on this story, Black Cowboy, Wild Horses. That's all we're doing for tomorrow. And I actually don't think we need to complete any other sections on this. So really, we only did a couple of sections. We finished this one today. Hopefully, you're finishing it up. I would wait until after the test to turn it in, just so that you have access to it still. But for this story, all we did was the concept vocabulary, and all we did was talk about it. We didn't even write anything down. We completed the first read charts, which I don't know where mine went or why it's not there, but oh, if you click on that little thing, it opens up. But the first read chart should be done, please. The comprehension check should be done. Incomplete sentences. The research should be done. Incomplete sentences. And then the analyze, craft, and structure should be done. Incomplete sentences. So we only did 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, that need to be completed. Tomorrow we'll take the test. But if you are not done with those 4 sections, that's what you need to be working on right now. Jada, mask, please. So that is exactly what you need to be working on right now. Finishing up those 4 sections. If you are online, finish those up. You guys can head out, but just know that those are going in the grade.